Talk of the Town is up and running in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, USA. I'm Scott Montesano, and this is where the Chippewa Valley comes to talk. You ever have that sort of period? We all know when we have more really busy and you feel somewhat stressed out because you're bouncing in a number of different things and you're trying to juggle a lot of balls. You're trying to make sure that you've got a number of things checked off the to-do list. But have you ever experienced when you don't really have as much that is pressing? There's a number of things maybe kind of lingering or pet projects you've had, and you've got free time and you're almost stressed out by the free time. And that's what I've had the last couple of days. I feel more exhausted. Not that I've done a lot. I've been productive these last couple of days, but we haven't had a lot of recordings to do in the last couple of days. Oh, we make up for it. There's a couple of days in which it's 7 a.m. to 7 at night. But one of those periods the last couple of days where there haven't been as many recordings, and I'm almost more stressed out because there's little things to do here, there, then I think of something else I got to do. Got a recording after this, and I'm almost more exhausted to go to the recordings on days like this than I am when I've got a bunch of them in a row. I know I'm not alone in that. As always, we've got a lot to get to. It is a lovely Tuesday in the Chippewa Valley. I know Wednesday's supposed to be really good. Thursday might get stormy later on. But looking in the next week, temperatures in the 60s, lovely. This is a great time of year. I love, strictly weather-wise, this time of the year through May because it sounds nice outside. There's a lot of excitement. You can hear a lot of things outside, especially as now the trees are beginning to fill up and you'll get more of the breeze through the trees, which sounds good. Once you get into particularly August may be one of my least favorite months. There's not a lot that goes on in August. Weather's usually okay. It's usually not uncomfortably hot necessarily, but there's not a lot going on, and it's really quiet. Doesn't feel like people are out and about. There's not a lot of activities. Kids sports aren't going on at that time. So I like this time. There's a lot of excitement. People are out for walks and runs and dogs and whatnot. We've, of course, got things to get to today. We'll talk about the Eau Claire City Council. I wouldn't say punting, but delaying, and rightfully so, the vote on the next city councilor. We'll talk about that. They came to an impasse this week and have done the right thing in letting it simmer for a while. But we begin with this busy weekend for the Montesanos and a great weekend for the Montesanos. One of those great weekends as a parent. Our son Derek got his first start with the Memorial JV baseball team. He earned it. My son, for whatever reason, is the smallest kid ever. You line him up with a bunch of stuffed animals, and you'd swear the stuffed animals will probably be the tallest of the group. He's got no size to him whatsoever. They're a good strong breeze will pick him up and flip him over a house. It's not without trying. He eats, he works out, but he's just a small kid and love it. As parents, I told my wife this. I said, just to be selfish, we've been able to maintain a little boy for a very long time. Some of you out there who've got 14-year-olds, the 14-year-olds got a thicker beard than that of somebody twice their age. They've got a mustache that looks straight out of 1977. Our boy is going on 7 years of age. So we've been able to maintain the little boy for a long time. But he knows and can play sports, especially baseball. He's a very good baseball player. The hard thing is because he doesn't look the part, and he is by definition, pound for pound, he's very good, but he's undersized. So he ends up getting held against him because he would always he loses the bus game, as they say in sports. Hey, somebody gets off the bus and you go, "Oh, I'm going to lose to them." Derek gets off the bus and you go, "Oh, I've got him in the fight." But he got his first start on over the weekend and did well, laid down a sacrifice bunt, and proud parent there because he's had to really earn getting playing time on a very solid ball club that they've got, and he's had to earn that playing time. So good job by my son. And then our daughter, Alexia, her figure skating show, the Eau Claire Figure Skating Club show, she did well for 3 days. We talked about that on Thursday. Go back and listen to that show from Thursday, by the way, which is one of our most listened to we've had in the last few weeks of Talk of the Town. So go back and listen to last Thursday's show. But she did well, had a great time with her performance. So a good weekend for the Montisanos. All right, getting back to what we were going to talk about with the City Council. City Council this month having to replace Emily Anderson, who has stepped down from her post with 1 year left in District 2 because of life commitments. Not enough time to hold an actual election, so the City Council arbitrarily having to vote on who's going to take over the spot. 3 people put their name in the hat, and we're down to the last 2. They were hoping, one, to vote last week, but weather pushed that aside. So they held a special meeting this week, had the 3 candidates talk, Brian Trowbridge, Joyce Orth, Shelley Janke. They went through votes on Monday night. Brian Trowbridge eliminated right away, but they're at an impasse because you need 6 votes to win. Joyce Orth with 5, Shelley Janke with 3. Only 8 counselors present on Monday, with Emily Berge not present. Again, this was not a scheduled. This was all delayed from the previous week. She wasn't there, and neither was Jessica Shane. So those 2 counselors not there. Those 2 council members not there. So you only had 8. You have to assume you've got the 10. You need to have 6 votes, a majority, to get the spot. And as it turns out, they went through 3 rounds of voting. On all 3 of the rounds, Joyce Orth ended up with 5, and Shelley Janke ended up with 3. And after the 3rd vote, the councilors looked at each other and went, hey, we're not going to change our votes. The 5 that were 5 for one, the 3 for the other, it did not move at all. There wasn't, as they were talking to each other, everybody was sort of firm into what they wanted. Nothing was going to change last night. And I think it was Charlie Johnson, the youngest member of the council, but I know others had to have felt the same thing. They kind of stopped and went, the only thing that will accomplish today is somebody, just to get the vote over with, will change their vote. And that's not proper. Somebody will just change for the sake of changing, and that's not proper. Plus, you've got 2 other votes that you can still get if you wait a week. So that's what they've done. They'll make another vote next week, which will also be a big week because of the city manager contract will be up with Stephanie Hirsch. So next week, they're hoping to push either Orth over the finish line or Shelley Janke comes from behind and gets the spot. Brian Trowbridge, not in the picture. He was eliminated, never got a vote during any of this. We'll see if Emily Berge next week, Jeremy Greger gets sworn in as the city council president. So I'm not entirely sure. Does Berge vote, or would it be Greger right away? And then Jessica Shane will be back next week. It'll be interesting to see how it all turns out next week. There will no doubt be posturing throughout the course of this week. The counselors cannot get together. They can't talk about this themselves. But that doesn't mean people that know Orth or know Janke or they themselves cannot be pushing their cause, because you got to make sure you keep the votes you have, and you've got to, on both sides, make your case to the two that haven't voted yet, and you've also got to make your case to other people to sway them one way or the other. So expect that over the course of the next few days and weeks, and no doubt counselors are getting emails and phone calls from people saying, hey, support so-and-so, support so-and-so. Here's the most important thing. If you are out there, look up who voted for who, and it's very easy to find online. But regardless, whoever you want, if you've got a strong feeling, let your counselor know. Let your council member know. Because I guarantee you, a lot of council members, they're making this, they have not had a lot of feedback. I guarantee you, they have not had a lot of feedback from constituents on this. I guarantee you they have not. Reach out to your counselor. You yourself, the resident, not surrogates for Orth or surrogates for Janke who are writing in from outside the area, from outside the city, from outside the district. You yourself let your council member know what you want, and that'll help the council member as well. So if you've got a strong feeling one way or the other, reach out to your council member. Just let them know in an email, just a simple, straight email. Hey, I know you voted for so-and-so. I wish you'd vote for this. Or, hey, you voted for so-and-so. I will hope you stay with that vote. Do it. I think that'll make a big difference as well. I really do, because this is the number 1 through 1,000 reason why Brian Trowbridge did not move on past the first round, even though he may be the better candidate of all three, is because twice he was not elected in votes, in actual votes, in actual elections. This is not an election. This is the council members having to arbitrarily make the pick they think is the best. But if this is kind of your way to de facto place a vote, and if you're of the people that say, oh, it doesn't matter, they'll just do whatever the hell they want, that's a bad way to go through life. And you'd be surprised how many times you can still you'll get what you want. You'll get what you want by putting your opinion out there. Put your opinion out there. Sell it. This is entirely a who do you know situation. As I said before, I'm not on board with any of the candidates. Funny thing is, Orth, as we've said on this program, the least desirable to me. But perhaps she wowed people with her ideas when she was speaking to the council members. The reality is, the position itself is only temporary. Whoever does get the role, they're not going to be able to come in and do wild things and wild proclamations. They're not necessarily going to be a paper mover either and just blindly go along with everything else. They shouldn't really do that either. But their goal, whoever comes in, their job is to keep the car on the road. That's their job. Keep the car on the road, observe. I'll do a lot of observation over the next several months, then likely run for the position again next winter into spring, and then if they get it and they'll have the name recognition, hit the ground running. If they win the election, now what they've had is over the course of about a year on-the-job training, which is fantastic. We say it all the time when it comes to elected individuals. They come in with grand ideas, and that's not a bad idea. That's not bad, but like any job, there is a feeling out period. So whoever does get it, it is significant in the sense of they're going to get on-the-job training for a few months. Before then, they've got a head start into the actual election next year. Another thing the city is considering. Now, this is big story. It came out over the weekend, and it's something that I think it's kind of odd because you talk to people around town and even look online, people are pretty much in support of this. Though, as we'll mention in a moment, city leaders saying it's kind of mixed. Regardless, the city is considering entering a contract with a private business who would take over the maintenance of the city benches and in turn sell advertising. So think of benches you see on golf courses, think of benches you see around bus stops and other communities that have got signs. The generic realtor that's got a sign on a billboard, on a park bench. So think of any bit, it's the it's the Bob Widget Shop bench. It's got their sign there. In today's day and age, maybe a QR code, whatever. This private business, though, would take over the benches and would sell advertising. The city, like a lot of things, claims to have to spend a lot of money every year in the maintenance and the upkeep of various benches. This would eliminate that. I like the concept. I like the idea. We've talked about on this program. You've got to look at ways of cutting expenses and raising revenue. This doesn't necessarily raise revenues, we'll get to in a moment, but it does cut a cost. And they're on the right track. And it's been well received. Though Stephanie Hirsch, in her own email to the public this weekend, said there are a lot of people, well, she cites it's divisive. Half the people are for the idea, and she says half the people that have responded are not for the idea, citing that they are upset about the idea of being sold to. Many arguing they don't want to constantly be sold. Enough of just getting advertisements in my face. Here's my thoughts. To those that are against this idea, and again, I'm going to talk about it in a moment. I'd like to see it tweaked just a little bit, but to those upset by the concept of advertising, and I do think it's a minority in the end. Folks, we need to raise revenue and cut expenses. I don't think a lot of you are going to argue that, especially with what we've been talking about the last month. A lot of you aren't going to argue that, right? But the answer isn't simply when so many people, when it comes to governmental agencies and quasi-governmental agencies like school districts, when it comes to budgetary issues, everyone's answer is always, well, let people go. Nameless, faceless people to you, let them go. They're all stealing my money. That's your answer to everything. They're all stealing the money. They're not doing anything. They're not working as hard as I have. They don't do it. They're lazy. They're good for nothing. Cut them. Cut them all. If this was a business, you'd be firing people. Blah, blah, blah. That's not that. That's a very lazy way of looking at it. I'm not sitting here saying nobody should ever be let go if you're in a budget crunch. But that seems to be everybody's answer to everything. And then when it starts to trickle into something that may impact you, then people go, well, not that. It's a true NIMBYism. People want things cut, but they don't want their thing cut. Folks, it's not sustainable just to cut staff. That's not going to have long-term benefits to you. And I'm not talking about quality of things. I'm talking about the fact of if you're not eventually raising revenue, you can only cut so much. You can only trim so much. You eventually have got to raise the revenue. So to those against it, what grand idea do you have to raise revenue? Here's an opportunity that frankly would not be that intrusive to raise revenue. It's not like we've got these ornamental benches around town that have got some historical value to them. Be very unobtrusive. Now, that being said, same thing we've had the problem with Hobbs. You're on the right track. We got to keep you on course if you're the city. We got to sell advertising. That's right. Well, let's let this other group do. No. Gotta. If you're watching the video, you're seeing me pull. I'm pulling them back in. I don't like the idea of the city, though, entering in with a private business to sell. All right? Entering in with a private business is a win. It's a win. Cutting costs and all of that. But I'd rather see the city keep the benches and sell them themselves, or a mixture of something like that. Because I want the city making sure it's getting revenue. Or if this deal goes through, is there a way the city can get revenue? Because as I said, your answer isn't just to cut expenses. You have to raise revenue. There is no other way, and the answer cannot just be, how do we just tax people constantly? You can't just, it is, as I've said before, the nonprofit mentality that sometimes you get. Not as a negative, but the answer to a lot of nonprofits, and this includes like booster clubs and little leagues and all these other, it includes all these as well, is we just, they don't look for new ways of raising revenue. They're just constantly looking at the current ones they've got, and they're looking for big swings and get as much as they can for the least amount as over time. Hey, we need this big donor. And that can exist in nonprofit world. That can exist. You've got to go find that one benefactor, and you've got to go do this and that. But in actual business, in for-profit business, it's about mining for consistent revenue streams. There's just a slight difference. As I said before, it's not a negative on nonprofits. It's not. It's something I could not do. But you have to look at this from a city perspective. How do we raise revenue, and how do we ourselves, as the city staff, do it? How do we ourselves? In a nonprofit world, the concept is, if you're going to hold a fundraiser, we're going to put down this fundraiser, usually at the Florian Gardens, and we're going to make people pay $50 a head or $75 a head or whatever, and they come and they enjoy the banquet. That's the idea. In for-profit business, it's how do I go and I sell an individual product to every single person? There's just a slight little tweak there. I look at these park benches as a way that we can directly sell. I like the concept. I like the idea. I think we're on the right track. Okay? I think we're on the right track. I just want to make sure the city is the one that doesn't miss out on a revenue stream, if you understand what I'm saying. I don't want them missing out, or us, frankly, missing out on a revenue stream. But in the end, I like what they're thinking. Again, we look at the Fairfax pool. I'd love to see signage up at the Fairfax pool this summer. Now, you're kind of late this year. It's going to be hard to do it. But I want to see a lot of signs. There's a couple of random signs that end up there. No, I want full signage. You could sell a lot of signage there, and you could sell XY, Bob's Widget Day at the Fairfax pool, all that. How do you do it? Here's the kicker, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Because what the city will say is, well, who are we going to have sell it? Who on our staff is going to sell? We can send out an email. We can send out a newsletter saying, hey, for $100 you can get a sign. This is now to those people earlier on that I said the answer isn't just to cut staff. Here is where it gets interesting. When you are in a budget crunch, as we are, the answer isn't just to fire people, but jobs may have to change. Revenue jobs that are just an expense. Jobs that are just an expense. You've got to take a very hard look at them. And what jobs can you, what are essential jobs, but ultimately, what are some jobs that instead of them being an expense, you can turn them into a revenue producer? And yes, that does mean who on the staff can you turn into a salesperson? And if you say, hey, to this person, yeah, you've been doing this, but now we need you to go and you've got to sell this advertising. You've got to sell this advertising. You've got to go and you've got to try to get people to buy advertising here, or people to, in ways, because in this line, in this sort of thing, you might get a family that says, we'll give $1,000 and, we support the Fairfax pool. You might get that. But we need you to come up, we need you to generate revenue. And if the person on the city staff says, that's not what I was hired for, well, then you say, it's been nice working with you. We'll write you a letter of recommendation for your next job, but your job no longer exists in the way you were hired, which is not surprising. Jobs change. Again, I like what we're thinking. I like how they're starting to think in Eau Claire City Hall. We're not quite there yet, but I like the way they're starting to think. One more thing before we go. It's not something that's really, I know it's irritated some people. I don't know if it's something that is really drawing the ire of a lot, but the Drummond House, one of the old houses in the 3rd Ward, major fire several months ago. The whole thing looks, the old building in town, major fire, and the people that operated asked for the permission to be able to tear it down. It's an historical building. You can't just tear it down, so they need to get various approval. The Landmark Commission in Eau Claire gave the thumbs up, saying, yep, you can demolish it, and the city council has now stamped that decision. So the Drummond House will be torn down. One of the older lumber baron homes in Eau Claire will be torn down. I know a few people going, well, hey, did they exhaust all possibilities of saving it? It's a property management company that had it, and for a property there's no juice for them to go to all the efforts and go for grants and stuff like that to save it. I'm sure perhaps there's elements that could have been saved, and you could spend millions of dollars on saving it, but it's not worth it for a private business, and that's who had it. And I guess I give credit. It's terrible you lose a building, any type of old building like that, because you don't rebuild them. You don't build them like that and what have you. It's terrible to lose any type of building that is older and has historical elements to it. I guess I'm happy that, well, you have to have trust that not just the city council, but the Landmark Commission, that this is what they're all about. If they say, yeah, it's not worth saving, then you got to be okay with it. All right? It just stinks that it happened. All right? At the end of the day, it just stinks that it happened. I'm not saying, oh, we shouldn't care. I know some people will say, oh, you don't care about history. We don't care about history enough. And I'll argue, yeah, I do think in this area we don't celebrate our own history enough. But I don't think your argument with the Drummond House is with the current property owner or with the Landmark Commission or with the city council. I think your issue is with the circumstance to begin with, and that's the fact that there was a fire. All right? It stinks it happened. Sometimes things just stink to happen. All right. Back with you on Thursday, another edition of Talk of the Town then. On behalf of everyone who made this podcast possible, I'm Scott Montesano, saying there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. Make sure to take advantage of it. And until next time, so long.